We are a species defined by our illusions, safely cocooned in the comforting lie that our isolation is absolute. But in 2026, the silence died. 40 light-years away, nestled in the cold, unblinking dark, something began to speak. It did not send a chaotic burst of stellar static or a fleeting cosmic sigh. It sent structure. A cold, mathematically precise rhythm that has not stopped. It cuts through the vacuum like a scalpel, whispering to our receivers day and night, relentless and indifferent. To look up at the night sky now is to feel a primal, paralyzing shift in the human psyche. It is the sudden, terrifying realization that the dark bedroom we thought we slept in alone has breathing in the corner. Psychologists call this the ultimate cognitive rupture. For millennia, our gods, our wars, and our philosophies were built on the assumption of our central supremacy, or at least our quiet solitude. Now, that vanity is shattered. The signal is a mirror reflecting our deepest, most existential dread, the horror of the unknown, and the even greater horror of being known. We are gripped by a silent, collective panic. It is not the fear of flashing flying saucers or Hollywood invasions. It is a slow, suffocating dread that crawls under the skin. We listen to the steady, rhythmic pulse of the transmission and realize we are listening to an ancient mind. Because of the vastness of space, the voices we are intercepting now were cast into the void decades ago. We are listening to ghosts. Are they still there? Or are we merely receiving the automated, lingering echo of a civilization that is already burned to ash? Our minds instinctively claw for meaning, trying to decode the mathematical pulses, but the silence between the beats is what truly deafens us. The universe is no longer an empty canvas for our dreams, it is a crowded theater where we have just realized we are sitting in the dark, and the spotlight is slowly turning our way. We are forced to confront our insignificance, stripped of our cosmic exceptionalism. The signal continues to broadcast, steady, cold, and eternal, forcing us to ask, once you realize you are not alone in the dark, how do you ever close your eyes to sleep again? For 80 years, we searched the silence of the cosmos, comforting ourselves with the belief that we were either entirely alone or that the distances between minds were simply too vast to bridge. We treated the universe like a cold, sleeping giant. Then came 2026. It did not arrive as a violent rupture, but as a whisper, a highly structured, non-random electromagnetic transmission bleeding through the static, originating from a star system a mere 40 light-years away. In the cosmic scale, 40 light-years is not the deep unknown, it is our immediate backyard. It is close enough to feel the cold breath of whatever is sending it. When the wow! Signal teased humanity in 1977, it was a fleeting ghost, a singular gasp that vanished before we could look it in the eye. But this? This signal refuses to die. For months, then years, it has remained unbroken, active, and terrifyingly alive. It does not repeat in a mindless, mechanical loop like a dying pulsar. Instead, it is mathematically evolving. It shifts, adapts, and grows in complexity, behaving less like a beacon and more like an active, breathing mind observing our response. To listen to the raw audio translation of the transmission is to experience a profound, instinctual dread. It is a sequence of crystalline pulses, punctuated by heavy, rhythmic voids that mimic the cadence of a colossal heart beating under unimaginable pressure. It carries the weight of a mathematical language we can barely comprehend, yet our deepest instincts recognize its intent. It is structured. It is deliberate. It is patient. We are forced to confront an existential nightmare. Who or what has been broadcasting toward our tiny, fragile oasis with such relentless, unbroken focus? A transmission of this power requires the energy output of an entire civilization, sustained indefinitely, aimed precisely at us. Did they detect our first radio waves decades ago, and are we only now receiving their reply? Or has this transmission been running for millennia, a cosmic monument waiting for a mind advanced enough to finally tune in? The silence of the universe was terrifying, but this eternal, evolving voice is infinitely worse. It is the realization that the dark forest of the cosmos is not empty. Someone is standing in the trees, they have been watching us for a very long time, and they are still speaking. Listen. Not to the static of the stars, but to the silence that follows. For 70 years, we scanned the heavens, comforting ourselves with the illusion of an empty universe. We built a fragile sanctuary in the dark, believing we were the only conscious eyes looking back at the abyss. But the signal changed everything. It did not arrive as a friendly greeting or a fleeting cosmic whisper. It is a relentless, structured, mathematical hammer, beating against the thin glass of our atmosphere. It is 40 light-years away, yet it feels as though it is whispering directly into our collective ear. And with its arrival, a suffocating, primal dread has settled over human history. This is the terror of the cosmic scale. If they are transmitting with such terrifying power, who are they? More importantly, what are they? To cross 40 light-years of interstellar space with a signal this pure, this unyielding, requires an energy output that dwarfs our entire planet's history of power consumption. We are looking at the digital footprint of a titan. Next to them, we are not brothers in the cosmos, we are ants on a forest floor, suddenly realizing the heavy boot of a giant is hovering directly above our nest. The dread is not just about the threat of physical annihilation. It is the sudden, violent collapse of our species' ego. Every empire we built, every war we fought, every god we conjured to soothe our fear of the dark, it all shrinks to absolute nothingness in the shadow of this transmission. The signal hasn't stopped because it doesn't care that we are listening. It is an automated beacon, or perhaps a warning, or a monument left behind by a civilization that has already perished. Imagine the horror of that realization. What if we finally decode the sequence, peeling back the mathematical layers of this 40-year-old message, only to find a cosmic obituary? What if the universe is not empty, but a vast, silent graveyard, and this transmission is the final, agonizing scream of a dying world, echoing through the dark long after its creators have turned to ash? We are standing on the shoreline of a pitch-black ocean, realizing that something massive is moving just beneath the waves, and we have no way to hide. We have screamed into the dark for a century. Now, something has answered. And we are utterly, hopelessly at its mercy. We used to look at the night sky and see a canvas for our own vanity. For millennia, we painted our gods, our heroes, and our fears onto the stars, safe in the arrogant assumption that the dark was just a mirror. We built civilizations, waged wars over borders drawn in dirt, and constructed elaborate mythologies to prove we were the pinnacle of creation. It was a comforting delusion, the illusion of cosmic solitude. We believed we were the only authors of meaning in an empty cathedral. Then, the signal arrived. It did not come as a gentle whisper, but as a relentless, rhythmic hammer striking the cold glass of our atmosphere. 40 light-years away, someone or something was speaking. And they had been speaking for a very long time. In an instant, the vast, terrifying silence of the universe vanished, replaced by the crushing weight of a presence we cannot comprehend. With that single, unbroken transmission, the entire architecture of human history collapsed into irrelevance. The rise and fall of empires, the sacred texts we died for, the grand geopolitical chess games played by kings and presidents, all of it was instantly reduced to the provincial squabbles of microbes on a speck of dust. We are not the masters of destiny. We are not even the main characters in this story. We are merely latecomers, shivering on the shoreline of a colossal, crowded ocean. Imagine the sudden, suffocating panic of a child who realizes they are not alone in a dark room. Every boundary we drew to define ourselves has evaporated. Our religions, designed to place humanity at the center of the divine plan, now choke on the realization that the heavens do not belong to us. Our weapons of mass destruction, once the ultimate symbols of power, now look like primitive toys. The signal hasn't stopped, and with every pulse, it strips away another layer of our collective denial. The dark is no longer empty. It is watching, it is waiting, and we have finally been forced to look back. To look at the night sky is to mistake silence for safety. We have spent decades searching for a whisper, a stray echo of cosmic life, comforting ourselves with the belief that the distance between stars is an impenetrable wall. But the signal from 40 light-years away has shattered that illusion. It is not a random flare, nor a dying gasp of stellar radiation. It is a continuous, hyper-focused beam of pure, structured data, aimed directly at our fragile blue marble with the surgical precision of a sniper's scope. Think of the sheer, terrifying physics of this act. To project a coherent beam across 240 trillion miles of expanding void and to keep it anchored on a moving planet orbiting a moving star requires a mastery of energy that defies human comprehension. This is not the work of a society slightly ahead of ours. This is a Kardashev-scale entity. The power required to sustain this transmission for days, weeks, and now months, dwarfs the entire collective energy output of human civilization since the dawn of fire. We burn fossil fuels and split atoms just to keep our cities lit. They harness the kinetic fury of entire suns as if it were a flashlight in the dark. In the face of this technological abyss, our pride evaporates. We are a species that prides itself on defense systems, nuclear arsenals, and orbital satellites. Yet, against a force that can manipulate the electromagnetic spectrum across light years, we are utterly, hopelessly defenseless. If they can send a beam that pierces our atmosphere with such effortless constancy, what else could they send along that same trajectory? A kinetic payload? A localized gravitational distortion? Or perhaps the signal itself is the weapon, a digital pathogen waiting for us to decode it, designed to unravel our primitive networks from the inside out. We are like an uncontacted tribe on a remote island, suddenly realizing the strange light on the horizon is not a star, but the searchlight of a massive warship. They know we are here. They have locked onto our coordinate in the infinite dark. And as the data continues to pour into our receiving dishes, cold and unyielding, we must confront the most agonizing truth of our existence: we are completely at the mercy of a mind that regards us the way we regard ants beneath a microscope. The universe is not empty. It is occupied, it is watching, and we have nowhere left to hide.